there's nothing like a Wednesday pop quiz. And now Bill Landis is getting one on the podcast daily. I'm Austin Ward. He's Bill. And as always, PFF stats. You take with a grain of salt. But we like to put them into some context.
Sure.
And parse them, break them down, see what they might mean, what they don't mean. So I looked at 4 grades, and I wondered if they are the same grades that you would give Ohio State.
Okay.
So,
all right. I like this.
The best offensive player, who do you think has been graded number 1 by PFF on offense for Ohio State through 2 games?
I think I know the answer is Quinshon Judkins.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. I also think it might be wrong.
Okay.
Because
well, that's what I was hoping. Because I already know that you know the answers because you do your research and your homework.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not wrong in the sense of I don't think he's played that well. Wrong in the sense of I think statistically they're wrong because he had that long touchdown run that was taken off the board by a holding penalty, but it seems like they're still giving him credit for that.
They did give him credit for that.
So I think that's impacting the grades a little bit. But I don't know that I would disagree necessarily because I thought we saw, if you were left wanting a little bit out of the debut of Quinshon Judkins in an Ohio State uniform, I don't think I was, but I get maybe if you were, given all the discussion in the offseason. I think we saw like the real deal against, and it's Western Michigan, but I think we saw what he brings to the table. His vision, his balance, his ability to be explosive, although I think Trevion Henderson probably has that a little more than him. I just thought it's like, you watch that game, you're like, yep, that's it. Even on a smaller sample size, it's like, yeah, I think that's what you can come to expect of a player like him. So I don't know. I don't know that I would, like, if I'm giving out grades, I don't know that I'd have him number 1. I actually think I'd have Seth McLaughlin number 1.
Yeah.
And his grades are like, what is PFF thinking when you look at what they're grading on Seth McLaughlin this year?
Yeah, his are too low.
Yeah.
And again, Quinshon's may be skewed by that one run, although like I don't know what he could have done differently. So if you still want to give him credit for,
it kind of makes sense. I don't know if they like intentionally did that or if it was just someone forgot wherever they have their computer farm where they do these grades, someone forgot to delete something. But I think it does make sense to actually give him credit for that because he did his job on the play.
Yeah, and when you talk about week 1 to week 2, and if you were underwhelmed by the debut, I mean, I think Quinshon Judkins felt that way. He talked after Western Michigan about feeling more comfortable and routine and understanding the requirements and responsibilities and all of those things that go with it. And I think it's so easy to assign that to a first-time starter at quarterback or a reworked offensive line. Be like, oh, well, that's going to be fine. You just don't even think about it. We often talk about running backs and we oversimplify that position. There's a lot that goes into that spot that's not just getting the ball and running really fast or running really hard or through contact. And, if that took 1 week for him to feel comfortable, which is what he said, I think you already saw a dramatic improvement from week 1 to week 2, but the grades weren't even demonstrably different for him in those games anyway.
Right. And I think maybe what's most exciting about seeing that week 1 to week 2 progress, I guess, from Quinshon Judkins is that I think Trevion's look really explosive in the first 2 weeks. I know he hasn't really hit that home run yet. Chip Kelly said on Tuesday he feels like that's coming for Trevion, but I just think like the burst and maybe even seeing things a little better too for Trevion. I think that's been noticeable. So like we knew that tandem was going to be awesome, but and if you can separate yourself from kind of the sheer statistical production because of just how lopsided both these games have been, I think eye test you've definitely seen what you would have liked to see thus far from the running backs.
I wonder if even beyond the tablet technology that we're hearing so much about with Ohio State early in the year, if like Quinshon was not in a situation as much as Ole Miss used him, like where he could take a drive and then watch another running back who is just as talented as Quinshon Judkins, do something and run the same offense, same holes, evaluate the defense. I wonder if there's some value to that. We probably need to dig into that in a little bit more because I think we have talked about the value of keeping both fresh and splitting the workload, but even end game there may be something there that I hadn't considered.
I had not considered. I guess you can't really do it if you're like Will Howard or an offensive lineman. And they don't rotate a ton at receiver, but like the running backs and tight ends, like are you watching tablet cut-ups of guys who aren't you but are out there trying to do the same job that you're doing and seeing still maybe where the vulnerabilities are in a defense, even if you're not the one necessarily exploiting them? That's interesting. I hadn't considered that. All
right, so here's a caveat for this one. Mm-hmm. The top graded Ohio State defensive player through 2 games who has played at least 15 snaps.
Oh, I actually don't know this one. I'll guess Jack Sawyer.
Oof. I tell you, this man is very good. It's got a perfect grade so far. Jack Sawyer's playing really well.
He is playing really well. I didn't check actually, and it's changed because Ohio State's only played 2 games. But I think after the second game, Jack Sawyer was like 5th maybe in the Power 5 in total pressures generated by PFF's metric. He has played very well. I was glad he actually like got a sack against Western Michigan after pummeling Akron's quarterback but not getting anything in the box score credit wise for it. So he's definitely picked up where he left off last year. I assumed he would. I guess it wasn't a guarantee, especially if it turned out that teams might have been scheming against him. And I think if he continues to play this way, they probably will, whether that's chipping him or double teaming him or sending a running back his way or something like that. That would suck for Jack, but it'd be great for the rest of the defensive line if that happens.
It's going to be really good for JT Tuimoloau.
Yeah, good luck, I guess, picking your poison there. But no, Jack has to steal a turn of phrase from Ryan Day. Like I think you just feel Jack Sawyer's presence out there. Even I know you're in the stadium and you have a different perspective. I'm assuming you feel the same thing, but like watching it on TV, it's just like every snap Jack Sawyer just kind of like flashes in a way that's like, oh yeah, that's the best guy on the field right now.
I mean, I felt the hits against Akron in the press box.
Yeah.
I mean, they reverberated throughout the horseshoe. They were so good, and everyone in the stadium's like, "Oh my gosh, is that guy alive?" Like, and I think that's going to happen a lot. The way that Jack Sawyer's playing, and I think that's going to be the part that's going to be interesting to watch is what offensive line, what they decide to do in terms of schemes or slide protections with double teams with Jack Sawyer, because maybe there's a world where Akron and Western Michigan are like, well, over the course of the year, Jack Sawyer wasn't really that productive. It was just the end, and maybe he's going to sustain that. Maybe he won't, but maybe they were more afraid of JT Tuimoloau than Jack Sawyer. You probably should be afraid of both because there have been a lot of highlights for JT as well through these first 2 games without really having a ton of snaps under his belt at this point. But like, if you're going to choose one or the other to double, that's going to be not just a bad situation on the other side, whoever gets a one-on-one matchup, but also because if you're going to go single against Tyleik Williams and Ty Hamilton, you're probably going to lose.
That would almost worry me a little more, and it's not to take anything away from JT, but I feel like if you are going to solo block somebody, at least that guy is farther from the quarterback. The idea of like trying to solo block Tyleik, or I would like Caden McDonald really feels like he's pushing himself into that kind of territory as well, like and just have that directly in the quarterback's face, like, and then that's why you recruit the way that Ohio State has recruited on the defensive line and why you want to just keep coming at offenses in waves. But I think you have to have sort of the pivot piece that commands the attention. And it feels like Jack Sawyer in his 4th year is that guy now.
All right, this one, I went to break up the overall defensive grade and now just shifting into the best cover grade in the secondary through the first 2 games. And I guess I could be giving away the answer, but it might be skewed a little bit by the number of reps not being as heavy as it should have been.
The best cover grade?
Yeah.
I want to say Jordan Hancock. Is that not correct?
It's not. It's Denzel.
Okay. Well, he's good too.
Yeah, he's good too. So like maybe I should have slid out the number of reps on that and changed it because I think there's been a lot of conversation about Davis Igbinosun maybe being Ohio State's best corner, or the importance of Jordan Hancock that I've talked about a lot, or looking at the value of Lathan Ransom, Caleb Downs. And it's been weird that like he gave up a completion on an aggressive play in week 1, but he also had the interception. And I think everybody else is like, well, that's going to be pretty like somehow Denzel Burke has become, I think, underappreciated in record time.
Yeah, potentially. I think that's what happens when you have a lot of really good players, I think. But I certainly appreciate his abilities. That interception in the Akron game was insane. I wonder if he gets bonus points for that, because I think you should get however they grade it, you should get like 10 bonus points for not merely intercepting a ball, but for snatching it from a receiver who thought he had a catch. He's been very good. He's been good, I think, against the run too when called upon. They've done some things schematically that I think really put those corners in a position where they have to make the play. If they don't, there's really nobody else there. And I think that's some of the stuff that Jim Knowles was alluding to when he talked about potential vulnerabilities within the defensive scheme. But I think the corners, by and large, have kind of answered that call, responded well to being put in those spots. And Denzel in particular, it's a carryover from last year when he played, I thought, really physically against the run. But yeah, he's been good. I said Jordan Hancock because I feel like Jordan Hancock's had a couple PBUs that have jumped out to me, but he's another guy he hasn't played a ton because they're doing a lot of 3 linebacker stuff, or a decent amount of 3 linebacker stuff.
Yeah, the PFF grade for Davison Igbinosun is a little bit low. Again, it's a smallish sample size, and he's had a couple penalties through the first 2 games. That's always going to be the thing that you have to watch with him. I don't think if you're just playing him one-on-one in man coverage, I don't think anybody really likes their odds of beating him. But that's the thing that's always, I think, in the back of your mind, and it's reflected in his number through 2 games.
Yeah, he's been more or less what I've expected. They've not really played a team. I don't think that's going to challenge either of those guys on the outside yet. And I apologize for not knowing Marshall's personnel well enough to know if that will be the case. Like looking down the road, like
it won't be. Bill.
Yeah, I would assume not. Like Michigan State, for whatever you think of where that program is currently, does have some intriguing young receiver talent, including a freshman named Nick Marsh, who I think is pretty good. So that'll be, I think, a better barometer of where the corners are. But like, of course, they're good. Like we knew that coming into the season. So yeah. I'm not surprised that it's Denzel. He's graded out best.
All right, this is the fastball. It's the last one. There's only 4 questions on this pop quiz.
Okay.
Who has the best overall blocking grade on the Ohio State offensive line?
Tager Shabola?
Incorrect.
Okay.
And I know that you feel like Seth McLaughlin should be higher.
Yeah.
Josh Simmons is number 1 through 2 games.
Okay. That tracks, I think. His offseason was like kind of loud with a lot of discussion we've had about him. And like maybe it's just the nature of the position that when you play well on the offensive line, people don't tend to talk about you a ton. But I certainly haven't noticed anything that's made me concerned about wherever Josh Simmons is headed. I think he's been pretty good thus far. I don't recall him like getting beat all that badly in pass protection. Running was obviously much better against Western Michigan in the second half of the Akron game too. So I'm not surprised to hear that. I felt like the interior has been like really getting after it a little bit, especially on some of these like inside zone runs. The grades don't reflect that. I think your eyeballs would if you've sort of watched every play a little more closely. But yeah, I think the offensive line generally has played pretty well. But if you want to say that Josh Simmons has been the best, I won't fight you too much on it.
Yeah, I don't know how much stock they give to one form of blocking over the other in terms of run or pass, but Josh Fryer and Josh Simmons giving up 0 pressures according to PFF against Western Michigan in 56 pass blocking reps. Like that's inflating that total for sure. Like as it should. I mean, that's very good work.
Yeah, you think you might like lose your footing and allow 1 maybe on that many pass blocking reps.
Or see a blitz. I mean, and those things haven't really happened yet for Ohio State, and I'm curious what that is going to look like against. I mean, primarily once you get to Iowa.
Iowa's got a good front.
Iowa and Oregon, if they can sustain that, and if the RPO game or if the run game keeps defenses more honest or unwilling to even add extra bodies in there, and that also plays into Will Howard's numbers when blitzed and pressured through the first 2 games are like out of this world good. So you're just, I don't know. I think all the pieces are in place for Ohio State to make life incredibly difficult for defensive coordinators. And of course you have to be able to block up, basic run plays to do that. But you also have to protect the quarterback. All that starts with the offensive line. And we spent so much time talking about them in the offseason and wondering how significant the improvement would be and what the Chip Kelly impact would be. There's a long way to go in this season, but I don't know how much more you can really ask for the first 2 games. They started out a little bit slow, maybe a little bit clunky. We know they didn't have Donovan Jackson in the opener or in week 2 against Western Michigan, but it feels like if there are people who don't see improvement through 2 games, I think it's because they, for whatever reason, they just don't want to. I think it's there.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And if you look around the Big Ten, like I know that Michigan played Texas, but even like Michigan against Fresno State, Michigan against Arkansas State, like still figuring stuff out up front. It's taken Oregon 3 games to look like it's starting to build some momentum with its offensive line. And I know Ohio State was maybe slow out of the gates in the first quarter against Akron, but I think since then has really been playing well up front. And this will be a game coming up on Saturday. Like Burn made this point on Snap Judgments on Tuesday that Marshall's got a little something to it on the defensive line. I think certainly more than the first 2 opponents have. So if this is another game where Ohio State owns the line of scrimmage up front the way that it did the last time it played, I will take something from that. I'm not going to like take it and run with it and be crazy, but I think it will be instructive for that group, especially when now you're putting Donovan Jackson back into the mix and you just kind of have to like rediscover that rhythm that I think Ohio State did build with Austin Saravel playing at left guard. So it'll be a nice test for Ohio State. Certainly if it looks bad, like that's one thing, but I think if it looks pretty good, even if it's not like clicking right away, if it looks pretty good over the course of the game, I will be pretty confident, I think, in where this offensive line's headed generally.
Well, more data points are coming for Ohio State starting again on Saturday at noon against Marshall. Bill Landis will be ready, as he always is, with the pop quiz. He crushed it. There's just no doubt about it.
Did I? I think I got 2 out of 4.
I don't know.
That's a failing grade where I come from.
Well, we are allowed to correct our work as we go.
Got it. Okay.
So I think you got them all right.
Okay.
And you could justify where you were wrong. And I think that's the most important thing.
I wish you could do that in school.
I mean,
I was wrong, but this is why.
Yeah.
I get credit for it.
I'm an easy grader.
That's appreciated.
Yeah. So congratulations to you. That should feel good. Give you a little boost into the rest of this week. We're going to be back in here in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center Wednesday night to talk to some Buckeyes and Ryan Day as well. We'll have some snap judgments after that. Bill will be on before that on Kings of the North. So you can just listen to him all day long, I think.
Sorry.
There's plenty of options for you across the podcast. But thanks for joining us to get things started on a Wednesday, a Woody Wednesday on the Podcast Daily. Pop quiz version. That's Bill Landis. I'm Austin Ward. So long.